President Donald Trump says 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada will start Tuesday, sparking renewed fears of a North American trade war. According to Associated Press, he announced the coming tariffs at the White House on Monday. He says the tariffs are to force the two U.S. neighbors to step up their fight against fentanyl trafficking into the U.S. Trump provided a one-month delay in February as both countries promised concessions. But Trump said Monday that there was no room left for Mexico or for Canada to avoid the steep new tariffs. If Trump is imposing tariffs, we are ready, said Canadian Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly. We are ready with $155 billion worth of tariffs, and we're ready with the first tranche of tariffs, which is $30 billion. Joly said Canada has a very strong border plan and explained that to Trump administration officials last week. She said the diplomatic efforts are continuing. She spoke after Trump made his comments Tuesday.
So first and foremost, our efforts are still ongoing. We've been in contact with the Trump administration, and the Minister of Finance, Dominic LeBlanc, has been in contact with his counterpart, myself as well. And meanwhile also, the Ministers of Public Safety and Immigration met with Tom Homan, the border czar of Trump, on Friday. It was a positive meeting, and we have a very strong border plan. We've invested in it. It is working. We're doing it for ourselves. And of course, it is part of the ongoing conversations we're having with the Trump administration. Let's be clear. If Trump is imposing tariffs, we're ready. We are ready with $155 billion worth of tariffs, and we're ready with the first tranche of tariffs, which is $30 billion, which is already known. So we are ready, and of course I'll have the conversation with the Prime Minister when he lands, because he's coming from London, and I'm going into a cabinet room right now to talk with my colleagues about the Canada-US relation, and of course the tariffs. We've done the work. We are ready should the US decide to launch their trade war. We will be ready. We are not looking for this, we're not seeking this, but at the same time, let's all remember, when President Trump is talking about imposing tariffs, it must be linked to what's going on at the border, because he has an executive order that is linked to the fact that there is a national security crisis. And so we know that's not the case at the border. We know we have a good plan. We know that we've invested in it. We know that we've answered questions that the Trump administration had regarding our efforts. And so in that sense, based on that, we're having constructive conversations, but I've said it to you many, many times, there's a level of unpredictability and chaos that comes out of the Oval Office, and we will be dealing with it.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer stressed on Sunday he did not accept that the US was an unreliable ally. According to Associated Press, his comments came after the UK hosted talks with multiple world leaders on a way to end the war in Ukraine. The US has been a reliable ally to the UK for many, many decades and continues to be, Starmer told reporters after the meeting. There are no two countries as closely aligned as our two countries, and our defense, our security and intelligence is intertwined in a way no two other countries are, so it's an important and reliable ally for us, he added. Starmer said he had spoken to US President Donald Trump on Saturday before announcing Sunday that the UK, France, and Ukraine will work together to develop a plan to present to the US to stop the fighting in Ukraine. Starmer insisted any peace plan for Ukraine must have American security guarantees and said the plan is currently being developed on the basis that it will have US backing.
Well, first in relation to last Friday, nobody wanted to see what happened last Friday, but I do not accept that the US is an unreliable ally. The US has been a reliable ally to the UK for many, many decades and continues to be. There are no two countries as closely aligned as our two countries, and our defence, our security and intelligence is intertwined in a way no two other countries are. So it's an important and reliable ally for us. The discussions we've had today, particularly the coalition of the willing, is on the basis that this is a plan that we will work with the US and that it will have US backing. So that is the purpose of the plan, and that is why I spoke to President Trump last night before we developed the work on this plan. The whole point of a guarantee for any deal, or if there is a deal, is to preserve the peace. And if you want to preserve the peace, you have to be prepared to defend the peace. So the reason I've been forward-leaning on this is because I want to avoid conflict, because I do not want conflict in Ukraine, in Europe, and certainly not in the United Kingdom. I want stability in the United Kingdom. The way to ensure that stability is to ensure that we are able to defend a deal in Ukraine, because the one thing our history tells us is that if there is conflict in Europe, it will wash up on our shores. And already in the last 3 years, what's happened in Ukraine has had a massive impact on many working people back here in the United Kingdom, because their bills have gone up, their energy bills have gone up. There's been an instability in our economy caused by that conflict. So we are not unaffected by it. And of course, our own security and defence depends on the defence and security of Europe. So every step I am taking is in order to preserve peace, to avoid conflict, because the safety and security of the British people is my number one duty and responsibility, and I take it very seriously. On the question of responsibility, I do think the United Kingdom should step up and lead. We have done that historically as a nation, and we need to do it again, and that is why we're moving forward on this. On the coalition of the willing, yes, a number of countries have indicated today that they want to be part of the plan that we are developing. I'll leave them to make their own statements about exactly how they want to make that contribution. But we've been able to move that forward. I accept without criticism and with respect the position of other countries that may not feel that they want to contribute in that way. But I strongly feel that unless some move forward, we will stay in the position we're in and not be able to move forward. And therefore, it is a deliberate plan to ensure that we get some momentum and pace here. And it is intended to preserve the peace, and it's intended to ensure that we stay in lockstep with the United States, which is my strongly held belief the best way to preserve security and defence in Europe and security and defence in the United Kingdom. On the countries beyond Europe, obviously we had Canada here, who've traditionally taken a forward-leaning role. They've been working very hard with us on issues like training. And they've been a reliable ally, and I'm encouraging of that because they are already deeply vested in Ukraine. As I say, they've worked on the training amongst other things. Yes, on the question of the US, look, I spoke to President Trump last night. I'm not going to go through the details of that conversation, but I would not be taking this step down this road if I didn't think that it was something that would yield a positive outcome in terms of ensuring that we move together, Ukraine, Europe, the UK and the US, together towards a lasting peace. And so that's the way I've approached this in the last few days. Well, in the end, a deal will have to involve Russia. Of course it will. But we can't approach this on the basis that Russia dictates the terms of any security guarantee before we've even got to a deal. Otherwise, we won't make any progress at all. It is, for a deal to be done, but if a deal is done, it has to be a deal that is then defended, because what we've seen in the past is a cessation of the hostilities without any backup, and that was readily breached by Russia. And that is precisely the situation that I think we need to avoid this time around, which is why we're going down this road.